Hello everyone and welcome to HackerTV, our in-house podcast for Rajasthan's biggest hackathon, AceHack. और इस साल जैसा कि आप सबको पता है, we are coming with the fourth edition of AceHack 4.0. And thank you everyone for your overwhelming response regarding our registrations and regarding AceHack 4.0. We have been nothing but overwhelmed and just in awe that we got such a huge response from all the participants and all of our mentors and judges that are coming. Thank you, everyone. I'm your host, Biraj, and this is the 30th and final episode of Hacker TV. And our guest today is a technical lead at Capgemini, a software professional with over 22 years of expertise in fields spanning up to analytics, design and architecture, development, and multiple other fields, Mr. Ather Husain. Hello, sir.
Hey, hi, Bridge. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm good.
Now, let's start things off. Can you just introduce yourself for us once?
Sir, first of all, thank you, and it's really honored to be here with you. I can say like I am a author and a software professional, around 22 plus years experience in software development, architecture, optimizing the performance, all those stuff. And I specialize in the full stack development, DevOps, AI-driven application, software architecture, then innovation and mentoring the teams and all those stuff. And throughout my work experience, I have worked on healthcare domain, I worked on insurance domain, I worked on auditing domain, I worked on banking domain. So these are my this experience actually.
Right. Thank you, sir. Now, today we'll talk about hackathons and other technical aspects regarding a hackathon and what is needed to be an industry professional in this podcast. So let's start with your career. Right. You have had multiple ups and downs, I'm sure, in your career and have had multiple challenges throughout it. Now, what was the most brutal challenge that you faced while you were developing a project, maybe in a hackathon or for your career? And how did you finally overcome it?
Yes, so I remember one thing in my career. What happened? We were working on one of the project. It's on a hackathon only. So we were working on one of the project or one of the one of the project you can say. So what happened in that project? The database got crashed, and
Right.
like it was 2 day hackathon, and we were trying to. It's an internal company project, company hackathon. So we were trying to copy database from here and there. We are doing a lot of things and backup, but that backup was not the latest because it's a 2 day hackathon. We are doing lot of changes. So it was not the latest one. So we try to take what backup we have and then we try to run application. Certain functionality was not working. So then
Yeah.
what we did is like we introduced feature flag in our application. It definitely we spent some time to achieve it, but because if we are trying to setting up a data, we set up a data manually. So it was not that straightforward and easy. So we said, okay, let's go with feature flag. So we enable the feature flag and we disable all those features. And those features luckily were additional features which we are trying to show in the application
Right.
or in the project. So we disable those by introducing a feature flag and we just give the demo. So what we learned from that is like we learned few things. First is like we should have a proper backup plan, and second thing is like we should have feature flag always available, always there in our application, so that whenever we don't need it, some feature does not work at the last moment, we can easily enable and disable those things. So that's what
Yeah.
I learned from.
Right. Now, hackathon is a very, time constrained environment and it's very high pressure, right? So, how do you, in that environment, how do you prioritize your coding speed versus your codes?
Right. So whatever you are developing in the hackathon is not for real world delivery or not for the user, right? So
Yeah.
if you compare with speed and accuracy or quality, what I feel is like first we have to try to it work in a way like where we can demo it, where we can show to the judges and all, right? So first we have to
Yeah.
complete it with a speed, and then if we have enough time, we can try for additional feature, we can try for optimization, we try for quality because we have very limited time, right? If we try to
Yeah.
do best product, then we'll never make it. because demo is very so I feel that so that's generally happens, and people don't who don't follow that, I see they are having the problem. So because I remember in one of my hackathon where I was judging, so what happened, the team has really a good idea, but they were not able to demo it well.
Yeah.
So due to that, they lose the hackathon. So completing is very important, and then we can
Yeah.
definitely optimize or whatever we feel we can do that.
Right. Now, hackathons in a hackathon environment, a lot of participants and a lot of teams they make a lot of silly mistakes in a hackathon because of the time crunch they are in. So, what do you think is the worst mistake a team can make during hackathons that can, literally cost them their win?
Right, right. So generally, what any team has to do is like first thing is like let's say our hackathon is 2 days, right? So
Yeah.
generally, we have a limited day or limited time in the hackathon. So we should not choose something which cannot be achievable in that particular duration or time. So
Yeah.
first thing that definitely we have to remember, because sometimes we finished in the hackathon. That's what I said, right? We were okay, they cannot
Yeah.
demo it. So you have to make sure you choose, even though you have a complex problem, think about it, what part of that we can deliver, and then we can show other things as an advance or future enhancement, right? That's what we should
Yeah.
do. Second thing is definitely a good time management we should do. So because we have limited, what we should do is like, let's say if you are doing 4 people, everyone should have their own responsibility, so that will make it achieve. And then definitely everyone has to coordinate. And if anyone needs help, they can ask to each other. So that will help them to complete things on time and properly. That's what I feel. So that's how they have to coordinate well. They have to divide the work. They have to choose the problem which is not too complex. So that's how they can complete things on time. So
Right. Now, in a hackathon, it's very important to you know be aware of what kind of a problem you're trying to solve. What is the problem statement? What is your goal regarding this project? So, how do you think teams should approach problem solving when faced with an you know unfamiliar tech stack during a hackathon? Because it's very common that people are not always familiar with every tech stack out there, and
definitely, yes.
more often than not, in a hackathon, people get overwhelmed, right? So how should people tackle this problem?
Right. So there are many things people can use to solve this. First thing is like definitely there are documents available. So I remember like in one of the hackathon, actually I was participated, and what we have to do is like we have to it's not exactly hackathon, but it's an internal thing for the company. So we have
Right.
limited time to achieve it. So and what I have to do is I have to convert voice to text. So our
Yeah.
application needs to be enabled through voice command. So we are trying to test different different libraries, and our architect suggests us, okay, go with AI Foundry, right? And then I did some research and I found out, yeah, it's a really good option. Then what we did is like we are 3 4 people. So what we did is we divide it. So one person we dedicated to learn that thing using the the documentation or something is available or videos available. And if they need any help, the other people can also help, because we have to do many
Yeah.
things. We have to use that. We have to update our UI. We have to build a UI. We have to build a backend. We have to limited time. So that's how we divide
Yeah.
it. So one person who is should be dedicated to learn that new technology. Second thing what we have done is like we have used the GitHub Copilot and the Google, called Chat GPT. Those things definitely helps to generate a code and those things, because whenever we want to use a foundry, we need Azure SDK. We need to uh, write some code, right? So instead of writing code manually or learn something from zero, we just copy paste things and then we can troubleshoot. And while troubleshooting, what we did is like, because when we copy paste code from ChatGPT, definitely it sometimes it does not work in a single go, right?
Yeah.
So we did pair programming, and 2 people were working. I worked with other guy, like, and we worked together and we try to fix whatever comes in the picture. That's how we try to do. So these things like pair programming, Chat GPT, or maybe any AI tool. I'm just giving example of Chat GPT, but there are nowadays lot of AI tools available which we can use to solve this. So yeah, so AI generally helps in these scenarios where we can develop things faster and all.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I'm sure in your career and in your hackathon experience, you've seen amazing pitches from participants, great ideas, great innovations. So, I want to know, Ki, what did you, in your experience, what was the smartest and the most unconventional strategy that a team has approached you with?
Yeah. So generally nowadays, whenever we make any application in the hackathon, any project in the hackathon, what we generally have, we have most of the time we have a user interface. Most of the time we have database. Most of the time we have backend, right? It's not applicable for all the hackathon or all the application, but most of the application we do those. So what we can do is we can pre-build those frameworks, right? So because think about it, right? It's creating something from scratch or creating something which is already available, the framework that will be definitely faster. And
Yeah,
that is, I don't know if some may count or may not count cheating, but generally that helps because you are not developing everything. You're just developing the basic framework, or you can say the boilerplate.
yeah,
So you can use that for API, you can do those for front end, some designing and all those things. Also, you can create a PPT where we can have a title and all the formats available, right? Because we already know the basic theme. Maybe we don't know exact what we are doing, but basic theme something we can do. So we can create a title and those stuff. So that will help us to move faster. So
yeah. Right.
yeah.
That's actually a great strategy. Now, in your experience, in your entire career, what was the most complex, system architecture that you have designed? And if I want to know one of the problems that you faced while designing that, and how did you solve it?
Yeah. So what I feel is I can okay, let me give you an example.
Let's talk about your professional experience for some time. In your professional experience, what do you think is the biggest mistake that engineers make when implementing Kubernetes and Docker?
Yeah. So Kubernetes and Docker is like something which is really nowadays very on trend. It help us to deploy and scale microservice, not deploy, scale microservice very good, and it manages microservice very well. And then you can use some other tools to monitor and create dashboard out of it to monitor it well. So one thing what I remember is like which I learned from my personal experience is like what we happen is like we create microservice, we create a Kubernetes configuration file, we deploy our service, and then we see some spikes there suddenly, and we said, why does this spike is coming? So there is some because microservice help us to auto scale things
Yeah.
that we know, but how we can control it, right? So that is really an important thing which we should know. So there are some auto scaler like horizontal auto scaler, vertical auto scaler, then cluster node auto scaler. So what they do is generally when you set up in a correct way, what we should do is we can set up in a way like what is needed. We should pre-plan it, how much auto scale we need to do, because if it will do more, sometimes your configuration is not supporting that, your memory is spiking and your application goes in, even though you auto scale, it will go the wrong way. So the auto
Yeah.
scaler part needs to be needs to be set up correctly. That will help to create the application well or manage the application well, especially in the when you go to production. So you should know those concepts. That's what I feel.
Right, right. That's and I completely agree with you. Now, if you had to choose Azure or AWS for a high scale enterprise app, which one would you choose, and why would you choose that?
Right. So let's say we are creating a new application or new environment, right? And if we
Yeah,
have everything in the Microsoft stack, like Azure Active Directory, C Sharp code, .NET Core, whatever. So all Microsoft stack basically. So it's preferred like go with Azure because that's really help because all on same technology. If some issue comes, you can directly raise a ticket on Microsoft and try to resolve. They can help you easily, right? If you stuck somewhere in the Azure or somewhere.
yeah,
So it's good idea if you have Microsoft stack, go with Azure. But let's say if you already have the environment available, right? Like for example, a company already following AWS, that is still fine. We can still leverage it. But the good idea is to go with Azure if you have the option.
yeah,
But if you are going with some other technology, you are uh, can go with anything AWS and Azure. AWS is more mature. Definitely, Azure is also going there. It also has a lot of mature services, but AWS is like quite older and it has more services. Sometimes you might need something which is available in AWS, not in Azure. So you can
right,
go in those scenarios in the AWS. That's what I feel. So.
right. Now, in your experience, what is a common security loophole in cloud-based architecture that a lot of people or a lot of teams in their professional field or in hackathons tend to overlook?
Yeah, I feel needs to be done well is like our the like API keys, passwords, client secrets, all those things you should not store in a use. There are a lot of tools available. Especially talk about Azure, you have Azure Key Vault, you have AWS Secret Manager. So a lot of things are available which we can use or leverage for storing those. So that's the good practice. Then second thing is what we should do is like we should have the least privilege access on the application, even though someone can get some ID or password, even though if that ID and password has least privilege, they can definitely, it cannot be have any side effects. That's what I feel.
Right.
So that's what we have to do.
Right. Now, what is the hardest technical decision that you've had to make as a technical lead in the industry for such a long period of time?
The one thing what I always because now today we are in a stage where technology is evolving so fast, right? Always something new comes. So always we have the legacy code. Always have we have a legacy code, and that we need to migrate to the new technology or latest stack, right?
Yeah.
Either from .NET to Java, Java.NET, or within .NET to .NET, right? So that's what always the challenge. So we have to think about the decision. Should we rewrite the application, or should we refactor the application? What should be the correct approach? Because if we go with rewrite, definitely our code is more strong, more clean, more testable, more better unit test cases are written, and all those stuff, right?
Right.
But if you do refactor, the only problem with rewrite is like if you are rewriting, it will take more time, right? But in refactor, the problem is like if you are refactoring, it's a whole application, right? Especially if a large
Right.
application, then it's very difficult to break and do the stuff. There are definitely some patterns are available which can help us, like a Strangel fig pattern, which will help us to convert monolithic to microservice and those stuff. Um, One thing I remember, like one of the application which we migrated from ASP.NET MVC to Angular. So what we have done is, sorry, ASP.NET MVC, yeah, ASP.NET MVC to Angular. So what we have done is like first we have break ASP.NET MVC application itself to two part. One, we created microservices, and ASP.NET MVC can call microservices. Second, what we did is second we did ASP convert. Then we removed ASP.NET MVC and converted to Angular. Definitely, it's not that straightforward. I'm telling you, but that's how we did, and we did is part by part. Like we cannot do go one in one shot. We cannot do everything, right? So we did
Yeah.
we convert one microservice at a time, and then once all microservice done, then we started with the Angular migration, and our application code has both Angular and one time it has both Angular and ASP.NET MVC. That's what is happen actually. So it's not very straightforward, but it's doable and it needs to be considered. So refactor is the challenge with refactor is always the testing, because if you are breaking one part, that means you are sorry, if you're splitting one part, that means you're breaking another part.
Yeah.
So you always have to be make sure on that.
Right. Now, in the industry, how do you handle legacy code bases in enterprise projects without breaking the production?
Yeah, so generally what we do is we always write automated test case, especially if you have user interface. Even we can do for API as well. We can write automated test case that definitely helps for any change in the code. So if you are changing code from one technology to another technology, or you are changing something in the code, right? Easily tested if you have a test case. So you see how things working before and how it turns after. So that you can do. Second, definitely we can you go with a feature flag. So let's say if I migrate one of the monolithic part to microservice, right? And that is breaking. So it may break whole application. So we definitely, when we create microservice, we divide it by domain base or divide by feature base, right? So
Right.
we can introduce feature flag, we can turn off, or we can also have we can also write in a way like where we can switch between the monolithic and microservice if required. But if it's too complex, just have the feature flag which will disable that particular microservice. Especially when we are starting the migration initial part, they are more challenging because we are doing first deployment and all those things. So third thing is like we definitely go with a modular. We should divide the part and then we go one by one to microservice instead of trying to convert everything in one time. That's always not recommended. Then as I mentioned, the pattern like it's triangular fig
Yeah.
pattern, so that definitely help us to migrate monolithic to microservice, because what it does is first it will not call directly microservice, it call monolithic, and inside monolithic you are calling the microservice. And then later on, once it's all good, then you can directly connect to microservice. That's how generally it works. So these are the things we can do. One more thing I'm just thinking, like we can also do the blue-green deployment. So what is blue-green deployment? You can easily swap between one version to another version. So let's say I deploy my application and I feel like, oh, something is messed up, right? In production, I can switch it back. So that's, let's say, blue and green deployment. So that also help us to handle these kind of situations, because when you're deploying first, at least for the first time, it always be risky when you're deploying some application or on the latest technology or uh, latest technology, or you changing the technology. So that always is important.
Right. Now, in the industry, what is the biggest challenge in scaling a React or an Angular front end for millions of users?
Um, Right. So generally, whenever we are trying to scale the application, or especially front end, if you talk about specifically about Angular and React, but it's applicable for other too. So what we can think of is like first thing is like when the API should get faster results, then we should have a good load time of the application. So let's say, for example, if we are loading the application, right, for first time, it should load definitely fast, right? So those things definitely we need to consider. So we should have proper or you can say like efficient state management. So what we do is like we can use, there are a lot of tools available for better state management. We have Redux in the React, then we have something in Angular and NGRX in Angular. So those things we can do. Then second thing is like we can use the lazy loading. So what lazy loading will do is like instead of let's say I open my site, let's say abc.com, and I press enter, right? So what it will do, instead of loading the whole application, it will load only what is required for that particular page. That's what lazy loading do. So it will
Right.
so it will automatically less less file or something, right? So then third thing is we can use CDN. CDN is a concept where it provided by all the cloud. Cloud Azure also provides CDN, and AWS also provides CDN. The name might be different. So what it will do is it will let's say for example there's an image.
Yeah.
So that image will cache at my nearest region or my region if it's available, right? So it will be definitely faster if something I'm reading from my region. So then other than that, there's an option of optimizing API, or we can use some kind of state management. Definitely, I mentioned about Redux and React. We can also have some kind of caching. Definitely, Redux and those things are faster compared to the local storage and local session, but that is also one of the option if you don't want to go to Redux and those things.
Right.
Yeah, these are the things generally we can consider when we are doing the optimization.
Right. Now, how do you balance developer autonomy with the strict enterprise security policies of the industry?
Yes. So there are many things which we can do, as I mentioned, right? So we can definitely do the role-based security. Like say, for example, I have an S3 bucket or I have a Kubernetes cluster. So instead of giving read and write permission, if we need only, if you only want to read it, just give a read permission. So restrict the
Yeah.
security, or give the least privileges so that user, even though user get the information, it cannot attack that.
Yeah.
Second is like we can have we have a concept of DevOps, right? Similar to that, we have a concept of DevSecOps. That means it is additional security over DevOps. So there are a lot of tools available that will help us to scan our pipelines,
Hmm.
like scan our pipeline in a way where it will identify vulnerability ahead of time. Like we have SonarQube, we have Fortify. There are many tools available which we can integrate in our application that we can do. Definitely, we can have a good code review,
Hmm.
either automated. Now, even the I heard like some days back, like even you can, if you are using GitHub, then you can also use GitHub Copilot for at least
Yeah.
initial level of code review. Definitely, it can also find out those kind of easy things or something, like because people can save the passwords and those things. It's not purposely, but people are not aware of, so they do it. Then other than that, we have a secret manager. So secret manager, like the Azure Key Vault or AWS secret manager. And there are definitely them other tools are also available. So we can use, or we can take the benefit of those, and we can store our secrets, our passwords, our certificates, or any important ID or something, like whatever secret thing. So we can store it there so that no one can access it. And we can have security and system identity so that, for example, no one, so let's say one service is trying to access another service, we can have access between them instead of some give some access based on the user or something. So that is also possible.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things we can do. Depends on scenario to scenario, but certain things are definitely mandatory for all modern application easily. So
Right. Now, what is a software engineering principle? Since you've been a software in the industry for over 2 decades, so what do you think is a software engineering principle that, in your opinion, is overrated or maybe outdated?
yeah. So I feel any principle which you are which you are implementing, trying to implement too much to the application will have the problem. Like if you do too much inheritance, right? Multi-level, too multi-level, then it's a problem. If you use, I can give you an example of a dry principle that says don't repeat yourself. So generally, what this principle says, so I don't, I so this you can still use it, but if you use over, then it will be a problem. So what this will say is like you cannot. Don't repeat the code, right? You don't write same code again and again, right? So what people
Right.
try to do, people try to overthink that. They try to create everything in one method, right? So it's still okay. Like just an example. So let's say there's a customer service, right? And I have some other services from there. I call the customer service, and I'm trying to get a data.
Yeah.
So instead of calling that, or instead of having that customer service or customer API call in all the other services or all the other methods we are trying to call it better, you can have a separate code base or separate method or separate class where you can have a customer service API coded and you can call from other. That is correct. But if you are trying to, let's say if you are trying to validate something, and that validation you are trying to put, let's say you want to validate phone number, you want to validate zip code, you want to validate email, and you're trying to keep everything in one method, right? I'm talking about logic, okay? Everything, all logic, if you keep in one side, then what is the problem tomorrow if I want to enhance something? I may by mistake can do something else also in the phone or something. So the testing scope got increased if I'm trying to modify all these keeping everything in the one method. So what we should do is we should avoid doing that. Instead of that, we can create three separate methods and we can use it.
Yeah.
Sometimes repeating is still okay. Sometimes when is needed. So just be mindful when you are doing these things. So that's what I can think of.
Right. Now, you know, in the industry and even in the academic world, uh, the buzz is all around artificial intelligence these days. AI is transforming industries now, right? So,
Right.
with AI is transforming development over the years. Where do you see the role of software engineers in the next 10 years?
Right. So actually, AI is a good thing, I feel, because it helps in a lot of way. Mainly, AI will impact on, I can say, the easy task or repetitive tasks, especially. For example, I logged in and I have to write some code, right? And so, what generally sometimes, because nowadays there's so much thing you always have to Google is something before you start.
Yeah,
So better you can take the help of Chat GPT, Copilot, or something too, or there are many tools available. You can try to get initial code and do it. So the easy task, these are easy tasks, right? So even 1 year experienced person can do it, even 20% experience. It's applicable for anyone. So these repetitive tasks, what we are doing, right? Those things are solved by AI very easily, and
yeah,
there's no brain thing required. You just need to write it and just troubleshoot if something got break. So those repetitive tasks or easy tasks can be done by AI, but definitely we still have to design our own system. We have to do all the creative tasks, I can say. We have to still, like say, for example, we have to get a requirement. So we have to get a requirement from business, convert into the technical terms, design it, architect it. So those all things we have to do by our own.
yeah,
And then AI comes into picture when we are actually implementing it. So
right,
implementation part will be easy with AI, but still we have to do those tasks, pre-AI tasks. You have to do it, and then AI comes into picture. So AI is helpful actually. We don't need to worry about it. We just need to learn uh, how to use AI. Because someone needs to write AI as well, right? We need some
yeah,
developer
of
who can
course.
write AI as well, update AI, because AI is evolving now. People are creating
Yeah,
robots.
of
People
course.
are creating a lot of things, right? It's still in initial stage, right? Even
Right.
today also, let's say for example, if I'm using GitHub Copilot, I still um, have to give the instruction multiple times to get proper what I need, right? So we still on the starting stage. We don't know what's the future, but for now, all the creative task has been done by humans, and the AI will be helpful for repetitive task or automated task. What is required?
Right. Now, an adjacent question to the previous one. Uh, what do you think AI will do in the future, and what is a major industry shift that you predict that most of the developers are not ready for yet?
So definitely, there are many things actually developers has to learn. Like first, definitely AI. Definitely, there's no doubt we have to know AI. You should know how you can make a good prompt, right? So that we can get
Yeah,
good responses or responses what we need. So other than that, definitely cloud computing, cyber security, those things definitely we need to learn. Nowadays, the serverless computing, right? That's
yeah,
also one of the buzzword people needs to learn it. So these are things which definitely people needs to learn. Um, AI is, I can say, must. Everyone should know AI. Even if you are developer, non-developer, you should know some kind of AI. For
yeah,
um, every person there's a different kind of AI. So you should know what AI you should learn and just go with that. Even developer has to learn, even non-developer has to learn, everyone has to learn. Even at least you have to know how to prompt it, because
yeah.
learning prompt itself is a big deal, I think, because
Of
you
course.
need to, yeah. And definitely you can also ask, for example, if I'm using chat GPT, I can ask him itself, "Ki, how do I generate a good prompt?" And also it will also help you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Now, we discussed hackathons and also we discussed industry. Now, lastly, I would like to come back to hackathons and ask for your advice regarding our hackathon AceHack 4.0 for all of our participants. What do you think is the best way to uh, enjoy a hackathon to in its entirety? Like, I know building your project is an important part of the hackathon, but there are also multiple other things that people should focus on. So, what do you have to say regarding that?
I will say like hackathon is really good opportunity to learn. Because one thing what I feel good in hackathon is like it will show you how the real industry pressure is. Because
Yeah,
when you go to a pure development project or some project where most of the projects are in IT, I don't scare, but most of the projects in ITs are like in the pressure, right? We have to do a lot of things in a short period of time. So that definitely
yeah,
you learning, and you need to enjoy it. You definitely need to take it competition, but you need to at the same time think about it, think in your mind you are learning something. Because after hackathon you will not only learn your project, sometimes some of the hackathons they are common place where judges are judging and other people can see what's happened, what other people are doing, or you can ask them
yeah.
if it's not. So you learn other things also, what all things can be done using the AI. So that's what I can suggest.
Right. So thank you so much for your wonderful advice. I hope every participant that is coming to ASAC 4.0 will put all of this into good use in the hours of the hackathon. And they have the best time because that what all of us we have tried to do. And thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time to talk with us. I hope you had a good time.
Yes, definitely, and thank you very much for having me here. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And just one last time, thank you all the mentors and judges, all the participants, and as well as the organizing team of ASAC for making this entire hackathon this special and possible. So, I was your host Biraj for this season of Hacker TV. I'll see you in the next season. Until then, stay tuned, stay connected, and keep hacking. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.